All right, so let's talk some Lamar Jackson for a minute. It's interesting, right? Because his numbers were very good. His passing numbers, very good. The overall score, not so great, but that's we'll get a little bit more into that in a second. I think the truly, really exciting thing about this whole situation is just how easy it was for Lamar to throw. Not that, he's had days where he's thrown the ball well before. This isn't anything new, and he did even miss a throw. I don't have it as a breakdown, but I'll say it at the front. He did miss a throw to Andrews that could have been a touchdown. They ended up just getting a field goal. But what I really mean by how easy it was for him to throw is how open guys were. This is something he hasn't really gotten to have as a part of his entire career, really. I mean, might be the easiest degree of difficulty game he's ever had in the passing game. Again, there were some drops that made it look worse, but I think it's exciting. And a big part of it is because just what Lamar brings to the table with the threat of the running game, even if, it wasn't actually him running the ball a ton that made the difference. So, let's start off with this play. So on this play, it's going to be zone coverage that the Lions are in. You're going to see a lot of zone coverage with Detroit, which isn't what you want to do. Teams do this a lot with Lamar, and it's not the best way to attack the Ravens offense. It might be the best way to attack Lamar, but not the Ravens offense, because the Ravens have had difficulties with receivers getting open in man coverage. Well, here, when it's zone, you can kind of scheme guys open a little bit better. And what's going to happen is that with this zone coverage, there's no halfback in the game, too, but basically what the Ravens do is they're doing this more and more, which I like, which is just, running jet sweeps. And whether that's an actual jet sweep or just faking as though it could be a jet sweep, it does the same effect. It keeps teams in zone coverage even when there's no back in the game. And also Lamar's threat to run keeps teams in zone coverage. So this is kind of a lot of where Lamar's value is just with the threat of the running game. Forget the actual running game itself. Because what you then do on this play is have Andrews kind of get into a gap in coverage a little bit further deep, and watch how this works. Lamar's going to take the snap right here. Andrews is going to get into that gap in coverage, and you see how far the linebackers moved up. This now means that Lamar can make this throw relatively easy. So all of this stuff, very good. And look, Jackson's able to make that throw. It's not that difficult of a throw to make, and that's a good thing, right? This is better reasons for optimism than if Lamar Jackson had a great game. His game was fine. It was a typical Lamar Jackson game, but the fact that there was stuff more open, yes, it's against Detroit, and that is a necessary component, but also it's good to see these kind of openings happen. Now, we did see something like this because, listen, part of the zone coverage aspect as well is it's not going to completely get rid of the Lamar Jackson running game. It'll slow it down for sure, but he can still find ways to run. It's always a threat. So basically, with Lamar's ability to run, it's almost like you're playing with an extra player that can, catch almost. It's like an extra eligible receiver. The sixth eligible receiver on every play is literally the quarterback, but, figuratively, it's Lamar Jackson's running ability. On this play, it is zone coverage, and a receiver's running over the middle, but watch how the corner for Detroit is going to cover this. Lamar takes the snap, and look at how he runs very far over towards the middle of the field, which is what you would typically do on this coverage because there's no one else in the area, right? Why stay out there to cover nobody? And it's what he should be doing. But the aspect is, part of why you want zone coverage is because there's always going to be somebody no matter where Lamar runs to. But sometimes you have to abandon your area, which means Lamar can still run anyways. As you see, he is going to be able to just take off. And again, that running ability, his acceleration is just absolutely insane. We all know it. It never gets old, but it's also something that we're all very well aware of. But yeah, that's just another aspect of the Ravens offense is you get that extra option. Even on plays where, this game, he was kind of being a prototypical drop back quarterback in a lot of ways. But even now and then, he is going to find times to run with the football. It's just something he's going to always be able to do. All right, we got to talk about this play. So this is going to be one of the two touchdowns that Marquise Brown just drops straight up. So that basically took off 11 points off of the board. So he makes those two catches. Also, if Jackson does hit Andrews on that play, it's instead of it being, they needed a miracle to win, it being a blowout. So that's kind of where football can be weird. A couple of drops can completely change the course of a game. But anyways, it's going to be quarters coverage, and you have two receivers running deeper routes over the middle, and watch how the safeties for Detroit handle this. Once this play starts, so you're going to notice that one safety kind of moves in a little bit. The other one also moves in a little bit. They're both covering that first Baltimore player, which is what you want. And again, this is kind of the luxury that Baltimore has that they didn't have last year with Watkins and Hollywood Brown. You could make the argument, and neither one of those guys are great number one receivers, and I would probably agree, but what you at least have is two guys who can play competent football and can basically run setup routes and get open routes. So you can do stuff like this where you have multiple guys who can run concepts and have them get open. Also with Mark Andrews there, this is why having those extra options can really come into play, not just with more options for Lamar to throw to, but these concepts, especially against zone, just work better. Because with both safeties taking away Watkins, now Marquise Brown, who's running a little bit further deep, has an opportunity to get open. The corner could come over and cover him, and he's going to try to, but it's just going to be difficult because he's kind of further away. This is going to be an incredible throw from Lamar, and it's just a drop pass. Again, Lamar has an incredible deep ball. It's one of the real, I feel like, underrated aspects of his game. I mean, he's missed a few. It's fair, but he has a huge arm, and he's able to show it off right there. Really accurate. Unfortunate drop by Hollywood Brown right there. This one was also, I think, a really good play, even though when you watch the broadcast, it looks like he actually threw it a little bit high. We'll get into that in a second. It's zone coverage, cover two, and you have a couple of receivers, one being Mark Andrews, the tight end. Andrews is running a little bit over the middle. You have a receiver, Devin Duvernay, who's going to be running sort of towards the corner right here, and there's only one safety in the area, and so typically he wants to cover Duvernay's route. However, watch what he does instead. Like, look, as you see, he is instead going to kind of move in a little bit, so he's going over to cover Andrews, which now is going to leave Duvernay basically completely wide open. So that's really good. But what I also like is look back over and look at the quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Look at him. He's into throwing motion now. Because again, sometimes we like to see how these plays develop and then say, oh, that was a good decision or a bad decision. Well, other times we kind of have to realize that, you know, the quarterback doesn't get that time. The quarterback only gets the time up until he's about to throw. But Lamar does make this throw, and it ends up being, again, that's a perfect throw for where he was trying to hit it, because he assumed the safety would try to get back into the play. He never did at any point, kind of a blown coverage. So while that looks like it's a bit of a high throw, right, it looks like, he could have, he almost missed a wide open guy. No, that's actually exactly where he wants it. I mean, maybe it could have been a little lower, but that's probably where he was trying to hit, and he got the touchdown out of it. So good concept, and again, like I said, it's just easy for Lamar Jackson on these plays. Things are working well this season where they didn't work too well last season. You could say it's just the Lions, but there were teams that weren't great defensively last year that the Ravens played and still had some struggles. And then we have something like this. So this is that end of the game play. This was the 4th and 19. It's an interesting play because at first, I think we all read it as zone coverage. I actually don't believe this is. I believe this is man coverage, but we're going to see just kind of a weird decision by a Detroit corner here, which is why we all kind of misread it. At least I did. So this corner is Bobby Price right here. I should set up that's the guy who's in charge of covering Watkins' route. I should set up the whole situation. This is a 3-man rush, so you have an extra player who's covering deep, and then it's man coverage across the board. So that's the idea, is basically there's not going to be anyone wide open, and if Lamar does throw this deep, which he has to, it's 4th and 19, there probably will be another defender in the area who can at least knock it down. And watch how. So Lamar takes the snap, and you see that right here. So Price is going to kind of pull off right here, and everyone else is playing man. So I believe this is just, for whatever reason, he got confused. I think he maybe didn't understand the assignment, or he thought that, okay, another Detroit player in the area will pick up Watkins, but that doesn't really happen. So watch as Watkins kind of gets into that gap, but there's still other players in the area. It's just a beautiful throw from Lamar Jackson, picked it up nicely, very well done. So again, even his miracle plays are kind of easy. Stuff was working. And how much of that do I want to blame on the Lions? Well, some of it for sure. You could argue this is a weird situation to play in, and I think that's fair. I also think it's worth mentioning that, like, Matt Patricia would run this stuff on, like, 2nd down and 2 because he was insane. But, even so, it's still something you're not totally used to doing, especially Bobby Price, who this is his first year, so that doesn't work for him. But anyways, that's kind of my feelings on it. So yeah, that's what I thought of Lamar Jackson's performance. Let me know what did you think in the comments below. And it's not just Lamar, the whole Ravens offense as a whole. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.